This is Dale Berkebile, and welcome back to this program that I'm doing on Wednesdays that's called Living Your Best Life. And this is a series that I created, just to talk to some wonderful people about how they live their best life, what they think it means to live your best life. Maybe they'll inspire you and get you fired up to live your best life. We hope to inspire you and welcome you to join us in the conversation as well. So if you have any questions or thoughts, please feel free to ask them either while we're live and we can answer them live, or we can follow up if it's in the replay. Excuse me. I believe everyone has a story to tell, and I believe everyone can be an inspiration. And so that's what I'm trying to do here, is bring some cool people on that can help inspire us and tell us a little bit about their story. So if you would, please welcome me as we join Ashley Ingram with today. And Ashley, if you would like to, first off, welcome to the show. And if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're coming in from, that would be awesome.
I always love that question. It's so loaded. It's like, what do you tell people when you say, tell us a little bit about yourself? I guess my name is Ashley Ingram. I am by day a cake decorator, a longtime fitness enthusiast. If you are in any of my social media right now, you get slaughtered with I guess my gym thirst traps. So that's what they're calling them these days. That's what the kids are calling them. Fitness enthusiast, budding entrepreneur. I'm currently in the middle of transitioning my business, which has been about 3-4 years, in a birthing process. That's what I'll call it. So we're like in a pregnancy process, and now I'm actually laboring what I've been working on for 3 years. So that, and then in all of that, I'm a single mom. I have 2 kids. Most people don't believe me when they know that when they hear that I have a 16 and a 10-year-old. I have a 16-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son. And I don't know, I've been on a journey to live my best life. And what does that look like for me since probably like 30, so be 34 in August. So it's fun that we're talking about this, because this has been my journey now for the last 4 years. And there's obviously a lot more, but we would spend the whole episode on the introduction. So that's me in a nutshell. That's probably the most poignant parts of my life right now. That's it. I'm excited to be here. This is
Awesome. Well, welcome. Thank you for sharing all that stuff. You have it's already an interesting life, so I'm excited to dig in a little bit. So my company that I'm building now is called Hellagood Life, and so I think it's an interesting question to ask people: what does Hellagood Life look like to you? So it's kind of tied to that best life, but in your eyes, what's a Hellagood Life?
So a Hellagood Life to me is a life that I'm very present to. So a Hellagood Life to me just looks like a life where I'm really happy. I enjoy what I do. And I'm just living at my highest potential at each moment. And that's again, like just being present to that. And what's interesting to me is, like, the further along I go into life, that's always the question, is like, what does a Hellagood, what does a good life look like to me? And that changes at every single moment. If you had asked me 3 years ago, what does a good life look to me, I probably would have told you one where I just didn't have to work as much. Like, you guys see my kitchen behind me. I live in a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house on 2 acres of land in the mountains of North Carolina. Like, if you had asked me 3 years ago, I'd have been like, oh, that sounds nice. But maybe at that time, that wouldn't have been in the definition of what a good life for me. Because 3 years ago, I was sleeping on people's couches and living on people's floors. And I was very it was just a weird nomadic period of my life. So a good life back then would have been just having a bed, like dead ass. Like, a good life to me was just having a bed that I could sleep in every night. So now a good life to me, I have this amazing house, and it's kind of like an awareness. And that's where I think the presence is so important. Like, I'm living a hella good life, but that, every single day, the question is, okay, what does that look like? Like, you're talking about building your business. I'm currently in the final stages of my business plan right now. And in the 8 months that I've been building this business out, this business plan, what it's looked like has changed. And that's been the question, is like what I thought it would be at the beginning has now shifted. So Hellagood Life is one, I think, where I'm present to that, so that I actually allow my life to just be my life, and I get to be present to whatever it is. And in each moment, it's just a good life. Like no matter what, like I wake up today and I'm in my bed and I'm in my house and my kids are great. My daughter's here. My son's not far from me. I have food in my cabinets. I live like a really good life, and I'm really present to that. So I know it's like a weird answer, but that to me is what a hella good life is. It's just being able to be present to whatever my life is, because even kind of like when it has its sucky moments, it's still a good life. Like it's still a good life. So that's that's to me what it is.
Well, first off, I think that I love that answer because one of the things that I think sometimes we overlook is we sometimes get this idea of what a perfect life is, and kind of shooting for this goal or whatever. But we miss the opportunity to be present, as you're talking about. But the other thing that I like that you said was it sort of evolves. So you mentioned, if you talked to me 3 years ago, it would have been this, right? And now it's kind of this. And I think that's an important piece to understand too, because, in 3 years, we're going to be a different person. We're going to be doing different things. And, and our outlook might be different on, what we're looking at as, maybe defining success or whatever. But yeah, so I like that. That's good.
Well, I'll just kind of push out on that for a moment, if that's okay. Like that's really important, because you talk to so many people, right? And they're stuck in this idea that they have to follow a 5, 10, 15, whatever it is, your plan, and it has to look like ABC. Like this is the circumstances that have to happen to create this outcome, and they get really, really stuck on this. They get really stuck on this vision, and they go, this has to be my life. And if this isn't what my life looks like, when things shift and their life doesn't turn out the way it is, they crumble and they fall, and they're like, oh my God, I can't deal. And you see, sorry, excuse my dogs, you see like this high rate of, increased anxiety and depression amongst people. And, people are like, people tell you, well, I feel so disconnected. I feel stuck. And what so often happen is we are so future focused or past stuck, that's what I'll call it, on something that we don't recognize that we're holding on to things that we don't need to hold on to. And so instead of being present to what's coming up for us right now, because this moment is it, like, this is it. We're stuck and we're fixated on something. And so we oftentimes, I see a lot of people, and I've been there myself, where we stay stuck in an area of our life, and we are essentially stopping ourselves from moving forward because we just can't let go of what we think it should look like. Instead of allowing life to be what it is, we go, oh my God, it doesn't look like this, so this can't be it. And that, I think, part of it comes from, again, that awareness around like, what does a good life look for me? Because again, you're going to be, like you said, you're going to be a different person in 3 years. The things that I want now, vastly different from the things that I would have told you I wanted 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I was material, success metric driven. Like my success metrics were based on material gains and material validations. Now, as a person, in the way that I see things now, that's success to me, is having peace in my life. It's being happy with who I am. It's enjoying my life. When I'm with my kids, can I be present with them and not be on my phone and be like, oh, just, can I just, like, when I go somewhere, and this is bad because I'm on social media a lot, but when I go somewhere, do I really need to take the picture and have to post it, or can I just be present to having a good meal and a conversation with the people that I'm with? And because that's life, that's your life, that's living your life. And so I feel like that's something where a lot of people get caught up in. When you can release the idea, like when you can release the idea that it has to look like this, and you can start asking yourself, okay, what can it actually look like? You really open yourself up to, like, we said, life being fun. It gets to be fun. You get to enjoy your life, but, we hold so much control over that, and we don't recognize it. And we hold on and try to hold on to these things that really we've outgrown or just aren't meant for us anymore. and we stop ourselves, like right there, we stop. So it's like something someone said, I'll end it with this, is a lot of people die before they actually die. So
Right. Very good. Okay, well, so I have this kind of little curveball question that I throw out. So this is it's not too awkward, but basically what it is so I got three questions. I'm going to share them right now, and then you can pick anyone that kind of suits you best or feels right or whatever, or you can answer all three, whatever. But I like to give the guests some choice and some control in the conversation. So so the first question, where do you find the most joy?
where do
The
I find
second
them?
question, yeah, where do you find the most joy? The second question, what inspires you? And the third question is, what is your superpower? And if I need to repeat any of those, I can. But if any of those speak to you, that
Okay, where do I find my joy? What's the second one?
what inspires you?
Okay, and the last one is, what's my superpower? Okay, I'm going to answer all three because I really like all these. So where do I find joy? So I actually find joy in really little things. Really little things, like little things that we don't think about. Like you look at kids and they're always like, a child will find a dandelion and it will be the most amazing thing in the world. And you as an adult, you're just like, oh, that's a weed. But then you get on that kid's level and you look at it and it kind of opens up this whole different world for you, right? And we as adults, we talk about having lost our childlike curiosity. So for me, I find joy in any moment that can open me to childlike curiosity, because it allows me to look at my life through a different lens. So little moments make me happy. Like when I lived in Florida when I was 30, I used to bike to the beach, and I would bike in my bikini and I'd have my headphones and I'd be listening like Queen or something. I would just be totally vibing, and I would go to the beach and I would watch the sunset every day. Like that was just, that moment was just, so huge for me. So I find immense joy in little moments. Something I love to do, and that was super important with me and my kids when we moved in here, is to have dinner and meals at the table together as a family with no technology. So find tremendous joy in just little things. Like I will pick up a penny and just feel so grateful. I'm like, oh look, I'll never be broke. I got a penny now. And I'm always finding change. And people think it's funny, but I'll go, money, 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 money. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just so grateful. I just found some money. So and what's funny is when you're like that, it makes people kind of start looking at their life a little differently. It opens them up to just, being a little bit more carefree about how they view their life in the world. So, and the next one is, what inspires me, or who inspires me?
Either.
I think what inspires me is really is people who are on the journey of authenticity and who are really showing up authentically, regardless of what anybody says about them. So people who just really live their life and they own who they are. And a lot of the times these are people who look nothing like what society tells you is acceptable, but they're just some of the most deep and profound people, and people who just live from that space of like, yeah, you know what, this is the life that I've led, but this is who I am. And I accept all the pieces of myself. Those people really inspire me because, releasing shame is really important for people to be able to heal. So when you see people who are living very authentically and they're doing it in a way that's very courageous and bold by societal standards, it's that making a ripple of people starting to open themselves up to that way of being for their own lives. So that always inspires me, because I go, well, how can I, live from that space for myself? How can I show up most authentically and powerful in my life? And so those people always inspire me. And then my superpower is my capacity for compassion and the ability to hold non-judgmental space for people to show up powerfully as their most authentic self. I know that's like a long one, but but I feel like it's one that's actually super needed, and everybody has the possibility for that in their own being. So it's my superpower, but it's accessible for everybody. It could be everybody's superpower.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. That's great. Yeah. Well, nothing like recognizing a superpower that is accessible to others, because that's one of the other things that with all of this stuff that I'm trying to do, some of the things that I'm trying to do is be inclusive and try and lift all people up, right? So what can I do? That's my kind of one of my things is what can I do to lift people up? So hearing a superpower that is accessible, that they can figure out, and that is awesome, actually, by the way, is really wonderful. And those, those little moments, touching on some of the stuff that you mentioned earlier, as far as the joy and the inspiration. I love those from the inspiration aspect. I think you're one of those people. I think you're one of the people that are showing up authentic and out there doing what you do. And that's awesome. And the finding joy, it's very easy to get hung up on what society says, we have to do. This is what you have to do to grow up. This is what adults do. We see all the silly memes about adulting, right? Like, whatever. And it's like, well, then push all that shit away and just get down on the level of that child and kind of explore the world from that perspective. It is really amazing. And I think, I wonder if it's easy to do that if you don't have kids, or easier to do if you do, or are around kids at least, just because they bring up that dandelion or whatever. And so it's easier to be like, okay, I can say that this is just weed, weed or whatever, or I can, I can find the joy. Like, my kids pull them all the time and like, oh, I'm going to go give this to mommy, like this is such a beautiful thing. I'm like, okay, well, let's celebrate that beauty and let's go, so that's a wonderful place to find joy.
It really is. And, I wonder that myself too. I know that children do have generally a more profound impact, but then, there are also plenty of people who can have children and have their child hand them a dandelion and they're just like, what do you want me to do with this? So it could be both and.
True. Okay. So let me see here. So one of the next questions I have is, what is one of your biggest successes or an area you're most proud of in life?
Oh gosh, hold on one moment. Sorry, I have a puppy now. Hey, come here. No, cute. Come here, Ace. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're gonna have a dog with us.
Okay.
Okay. So one of my greatest successes, and I don't, you hear parents claim this all the time, and I don't think that you can necessarily claim a person as a success. So I just want to clarify though, that my kids would be my greatest success to me. I think I take very seriously the experience that is being a parent, because we are essentially building up the next generation. Like we get the first I always say this, we get the first 18 years for a really big reason. We're creating the next generation, and possibly, we're starting the ripple effect of what's going to come about when we're no longer here, right? So we're building out our legacy in the process. So I am a teen mom. I had my daughter when I was 17. I got pregnant when I was 16. I found I was pregnant a month after I dropped out of high school and got my GED, and subsequently moved from Florida to North Carolina with my daughter's father. And I just came from a really weird, not really weird, but just a really intense and traumatic, home life. And so, I had my daughter. My daughter was first. And there are so many statistics that support this idea that the child of a teen parent will generally become a teen parent themselves, right? And I remember saying to myself, I was like, I never want my children to replicate what I did. Now, that's not attaching any shame or anything to anybody that's happened to, because I understand that it happens, and it can happen to anybody. Like you could give your kids everything and that circumstance can still happen. And so it's not negating all that. But anyway, so my biggest thing though is that I wanted my children to understand that the circumstances that I chose did not have to define their life. Just because that's the route that I took, it doesn't mean that that's who they are. They don't have to define themselves by the same things that I've had to come through and endure. And so that also meant that me as a person and as a mother had to show up differently if I wanted them to be a different kind of person than I was, if I wanted them to have different heads on their shoulders than I was. And you know, both my kids' parents are one's a recovering addict and one is currently an addict. They have addiction issues, I should say. I'm trying not to label it anymore. They have addiction issues. So my kids come from a really insane background too. And I'm happy to say that my daughter is going to turn 17 in September. She's had no pregnancies and she's actually already done with high school. She'll, when she's ready, she's going to start college, and she just has this really amazing head on her shoulders. And my son, you know, his father is not part of the picture, unfortunately, but regardless, like he is absolutely excelling at school. He's in karate, you know, they've really learned to cope and work through things. And I know that a lot of that has to do with the choices that I've made to increase my ability to be that kind of person so that they replicate the behaviors. And to end it on this, when we moved into this house, we all consecutively like lost weight together, and my children have adopted these great habits. So, my children, they're like my greatest success because that's what I'm going to leave behind when I leave this world. That's it. Like I can build things and everything else, but the people that you impact is what you leave behind. And so my children are the people that I impact the most. And so to see them just be such great people, is a great success to me. That's the best. If I do nothing else in this world, like raising good human beings, it is enough for me.
Well, that's awesome. Parenting is serious work, and to look at it as sort of an obligation to, you know, set them up on the right path, and also as a legacy to sort of impact the world, right, is another level of work on top of just regular parenting. And so, you know, I commend you for taking that on, and congratulations on the 17-year-old and graduating and getting on her way and not having a kid yet, as you wanted to change that a little bit, and that your son is doing really well. So it sounds like you're doing a great job there. So congratulations. Yeah, I think that's really important. You know, it's funny because my purpose in life is to challenge people to become innovative leaders so that we can change the world together. And, you know, and I created that kind of or define the purpose, clarify the purpose. Like when my oldest, who is now 9, was probably just either a few months old or the first year, I think, maybe somewhere in that range. And at the time, my head was all in business. So this was all about building business leaders to some degree, right? But over the last 9 years, as you know, and I have a 2-year-old, as I am, you know, kind of parenting, you know, whatever, I realized that is similar to what you're saying. You know, who can I really build up? I can build these guys up because I have them, you know, 24/7 or, you know, whatever, and they'll listen. I mean, not that my clients don't fully listen, but adults are a little bit different than children. You know, for the first couple of years, the kids still think I'm cool and, you know, whatever. And so, you know, I've kind of changed my ideas on that a little bit, where, you know, some of those days where I'm struggling, I'm like, well, you know what? I got these two and I'm working on them, and I just keep planting good seeds and positivity and help them find their way in the world and all that stuff. And that is super powerful. So, you know, I can, you know, high five with that. I think that's a wonderful thing.
And it is because they say the first 7 years of child's life, their programming is set in place. So you think about it, you're coaching these adults, and a lot of times as adults, we have very stuck and fixed mindsets. And what it's often rooted in things that were created for us in childhood, right? So think about, I always look at it like I think about my parenting as like, what did I need the most when I was going through these times as far back as I can remember, and I remember like with my daughter, I remember being her age and just thinking like, dang, I would have loved for my mom to have listened to me and provide the space for me to come to her when I had real life shit going on, instead of feeling like if I came to my mom, she was just gonna, shut me down, which in turn made me internalize that what I had to say meant nothing. And so as an adult, I developed this habit of never vocalizing and always feeling resentful that people didn't understand what I needed or wanted, but I'm sitting here unable to vocalize, And so we get those 7 years to program essentially, and I hate to say it that way, but we are helping our children create programming, and that's what's going to become the next wave of adults. And so imagine if we could create a world of children that didn't go through trauma and turn into adults that had to unlearn unhealthy and unnecessary survival skills. Imagine a world where we didn't have to like fix all this trauma to be better people, and we were just, we got to live a different way. So that's how I look at it, like, because if the way that I think, not necessarily that my children will carry that, but if the space of holding compassion dies with me and my children or nobody else takes it on, then it dies with me and nobody else is ever affected. And maybe I'm not the major way shower in this generation or my lifetime, but I plant a seed. I plant a seed somewhere, and that's the next whomever that lights the fire for revolution in the world. So, yeah, it is to me like the greatest calling, like not saying that you have to have kids to be a parent in any sense, but I definitely think if you have children or you are raising children, you have this huge capacity for impact, not just for now, but for God only knows generations down the road, like a full ripple effect,
Right. And for those who didn't want children or couldn't have children, you can volunteer and do some different programs with kids and still be that amazing impact on them. So, this isn't just for the the parents per se, but if this is something you're interested in, there's certainly programs that you can get involved with that can continue your legacy, maybe on impacting some children. So I always recommend that. I think that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the next question I have is, what is one of your biggest hurdles or challenges that you've overcome in life?
Biggest hurdle or challenge that I've overcome in life? Oh gosh, probably my own mind, like my own self. I've been my biggest hurdle, challenge my whole life. And I always say this because, I've gone through a lot of things in life. Probably, there are probably people who've gone through way different things than me. We've all gone through stuff. But a lot of what stopped me in life is a lot of holding on to these things that have happened to me and going, well, because of this, I can't do this. And so I always like to say, I've always been my own greatest enemy. Like what song is it? Like where he talks about like maybe it was Pink song. Like I'm my own worst enemy. So to overcome my own mind, and I say that just meaning like making peace with who I am, having confidence in knowing that I can do the things that I say I can do, and learning to trust myself and doing the work necessary to do that. Like that's been the greatest hurdle. It's still a continuous journey, but you hear about people all the time like, oh, I got imposter syndrome, and they are like, they're waiting for somebody to give them some kind of permission slip. And the thing about it is you are the only person that can give you a permission slip. There's nobody in this world that can, tell you, that will make the life you seek the life you're living until you decide that it's possible for you and that you can do it. Right. I have something coming up for me right now. With this business is going to come a lot more responsibility. And so that triggers me in a way that I start doing behaviors and habits that allow me to procrastinate and not fully like step into this next phase, which could catapult me, could do whatever. And it's because deep down, the inner child, if you want to call it that, like whatever way you want to look at it, is really that part of me that's going, you know, if we do this, because the last time I ventured into this, I completely just destroyed myself. I sacrificed myself for, you know, something that I didn't have my head all the way wrapped around. And I really, really did a lot of damage to myself. And so it's that piece of me that's understood that trauma and had to live through that, going, listen, we're not doing that again. I remember what happened last time you did this. And so it's taking time to create awareness and going, okay, listen, this time is going to be different. We're going to outsource. I'm not going to try to do 50 hats. We're going to outsource. That's why we're doing a business plan and da-da-da-da-da. Like, we're going to do this differently. And I'm not going to steamroll myself in the process. So it's taking time to sit with the pieces of myself that are like still triggered by something. And that's what prevents me from, you know, doing it. Like when I had that like little talk with myself, I literally have sat here and wrote 4 pages where the last like 3 weeks I've been so resistant to doing anything around my business. And I'm going to tell you, like, I know it's going to do things for people. It's going to be a big thing. But like Peter Parker's grandfather said, with great, what is it like? With great power comes great responsibility. And so the part of me that's attempted to take on great responsibility in the past also knows that with great responsibility or great power, I have not been responsible for myself. And so, and knowing that I don't want to go through that again and experience like potentially fatiguing my adrenal glands again, that piece will subconsciously like steamroll me. That'll be my block every time. So that's my greatest overcoming, is my own mind, and you know, allowing myself to understand what's going on so that I don't get in my own way.
Yeah. Well, that's that's awesome. And I think yeah, so one of the things that's interesting talking to you, you're very aware. And so I love that, because, you know, you've been doing some self work, it sounds like, and you know, you're much more aware than a lot of people, I think, sometimes don't realize how much we ourselves are often our biggest hurdle and challenge. I mean, we have all kinds of shit that happens in our lives and whatever, but if we can't get over the things internal that are going on, we can continually corrupt or disrupt or, you know, allow ourselves to be steamrolled or, you know, whatever. You know, been there, done that. I got the t-shirt for it. And so I know some of those things. So I can relate with that. And I had to, you know, I had to sort of hit a rock bottom before I was like, okay, enough, right? I now I can, I need to just stop. Okay, so now I'm going to stop. I'm going to reflect for a while. I'm going to figure out what the hell is going on, why this keeps coming up, or, you know, whatever. And then you can go about it from a healthier perspective. But I think this also ties into what you said a little bit with the kids, or the question that you asked: what would the world look like if we didn't have to go through the trauma and unlearn all the stuff and all that kind of whatever? Because that takes time. But that's an empowering journey too, I think. So sometimes, I mean, I look back at my my struggles, and when I sort of hit rock bottom, and like I can see it as a blessing now, because it's you know, it's been almost a decade since I've been like really in a bad place, and so, you know, I had to build all these self-care practices and ideas and concepts and things that I do on a regular basis to not get to the place that I went before, because I don't ever want to go back. As a matter of fact, a whole lot of what I'm doing with Hellagood Life is because I don't want anyone going back to where I was hanging out. That's a bad place. And so, you know, yeah. So anyhow, I think you're really, there's a lot of self-awareness and some great knowledge that you have. It's awesome.
It's awesome. It's equal parts awesome. And I always say it's equal parts awesome. And it's also equal parts of all the things that we don't want to look at. Because with self-awareness comes awareness of when you're, not right per se, or when you're being an ass, and you are the only one, you're the only one you can talk to you about. You're like, girl, like maybe you're like, why are you acting like that? And maybe it's because like, I'm just PMSing, and and I recognize like that's why I feel the way I feel. But instead of going, oh, well, it's because I'm PMSing that I'm going to act this way, I go, no, you know what? Recognize that I am coming across this way because this is what's happening. That's not an excuse for me to be that way.
Right.
But and so I can shift to a different way of being. Okay, so I know that this is why this is doing it. I don't want to do that vitriol diarrhea that I just did. Right? I don't want to be that person. So what do I need to do to shift to be whatever else I want to be? So, and sometimes, you guys, being human, that just means shutting my mouth when I would rather just pop off at somebody. Okay, sometimes that's really what you're gonna get. But it's equal parts awesome, and like you really have to understand that the biggest spotlight is going to be shown on you at all times, and you are going to be the one holding it.
Right. Very good. Very good. Okay. So, so one of the other questions that I ask everyone is, what is one tip that you would give to people for wanting to, that are looking to live their best life? Do you have any tip that you would share, or what's one thing that maybe people should do to live their best life?
So something that's been really beneficial for me is just saying yes to the things that intrigue me. Some people will say yes to the things that turn you on. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. But I see a lot of people living their life doing shit they just don't want to do. And when you ask them, why are you doing it? They're like, oh, I have no idea, or it's for this. And it's like, do you want to do it? They're like, no, not really. And you go, okay, well, what do you want to do? And it's so radical what happens to people when you go, like, what do you really want to do? Like, this is something I'm working with through my daughter, because she's going through jobs, and I'm teaching her about negotiating pay, negotiating shifts. That's a very important thing we should teach our kids, is how to negotiate as adults. And it's what can life look like for me? What can that best life look like for me? And people really get I just had a total brain fart. Oh my gosh. Repeat the question for me one more time so I can pull back my thought. Sorry.
So what's one tip that you would give to people for living their best life?
Okay. So there we go. See? Happens sometimes. My mind is going about. So say yes to the things that intrigue you and turn you on. You guys, I have a donut tattoo because at one point in time I used to be a donut baker. I've spent 8 to 10 years in the hospitality industry, and I've worked in a myriad of food lines. I have done catering. I've cleaned houses, like really big houses, because that's what I need to do at the moment. I've been a baker. I've been a pharmacy technician. I've been a certified personal trainer. I've ran a gym. Like I've moved to Florida on a whim. I've moved a couple other places on a whim, and I've just really said yes to my life. And I've said yes to the things that really intrigue me. And I've never said that. I've never really stuck myself to life has to look this way, because I know that as soon as life has to look this way, it's not going to look that way. The moment I say never, I'm going to okay. So say yes to things that excite you. If you ask yourself a question, this is my favorite thing to do. If something pops up into my head and I feel like I'm genuinely curious, I follow the rabbit trail. I have full blown, gone on to just all kinds of down weird holes. I had a whole epigenetic fascination for a really long time. And I was fascinated with the Titanic when I was 12. I was fascinated with the Holocaust. I was fascinated with JFK Jr. And so for me, I never really say no to things that fascinate me. If it intrigues me, I'm going to do wherever I'm going to go where I feel called, I guess. And so go where you feel called in your life. Definitely have discernment for sure. Know if it's really you that wants to do this. But if you feel like this is what I want to do, like give yourself the shot. Shoot the shot, say yes to your life, say yes to yourself. And if it's not going to cause harm, always like if it's going to cause harm, that's a different ball game. Please don't cause harm anybody. Don't cause harm to yourself or other people. That's like no, let's not do that. But I was like, if your life like yes is to go out and murder people, maybe we should have said like discernment. But anyways, so say yes to your life. Like I've never really said no, so I've never put a limit to myself. If it intrigues me, if I feel like there's a possibility that I can accomplish it because I know who I am, then I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to figure it out along the way. Like I've said yes to stuff without having any clue how I'm going to make it happen. But I know I'm just like, I just want to say yes to this, and everything falls in line once I say yes. And I've done just some crazy shit. And I know that's why my life is going to be really fun, because I'm always open to the possibility of my life. So yeah, say yes to the possibility of your life and yourself.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I'm a lifelong learner. And so I see that happening in my life in different, whatever, just things that I'm interested in or intrigued by that as you kind of mentioned. And then I go down that rabbit trail for a while and see where that goes, and, sometimes I'm like, yeah, that wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be or whatever. And then I find another one and I can, and so it's an ongoing thing all the time. And so I love that idea. And, starting a business is something that is an ongoing, evolving, learning, growth kind of lifestyle. And so I think that's where it probably really rooted itself, is like, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so it's, you just got to like do everything you can to learn as much as you can and things like that. And so originally it started in business, and then it kind of flowed over into like all kinds of personal things, and opened me up to a lot more saying yes to possibilities or interests or, whatever. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. So, where can people follow you or find you?
Facebook, definitely. Ashley Ingram, like that's me 24/7. I don't have business stuff up right now because, like I said, the business is in like a full remodel essentially. But follow me, Ashley Ingram, if you like funny, witty, down to earth content, and some chick, doing gym selfies. Definitely check me out. So yeah, Ashley Ingram on Facebook and the Ashley Ingram on Instagram, because one day that's how people are gonna know me. I used to have people, I wanted to tell people to call me just call me Rev, like that's a joke because I'm an ordained minister, so I can marry people. So I always say like, that's another thing, like I've actually married people on a Saturday. I'm sitting there with my son. I was like, who would have thought, never having married a single person in my life, that I'd be sitting here marrying two people on a Saturday, but here we are, and we got to eat with these people, and it was really, really cool to be part of it. So, but find me on Instagram at the Ashley Ingram, or you can find me on Ashley Ingram at Facebook. I do have a YouTube channel. I used to run a show, so I interviewed a lot of women with just amazing stories, a lot like this. And so if you're interested, we did everything from just like business growth to domestic violence. We've done a lot of everything. So feel free to check me out, Tough Woman Table. And yeah, the best places to find me. You can reach out, DM me. I don't bite.
Very good. Very good. And I always kind of put it out to anyone that's watching. If you would like to be on this show and want to tell your story, that's what this is all about. Talking to everyday people that are awesome, that have a story and are totally inspirational. And so I would welcome you to, share in the comments or reach out to me personally. We can have that conversation. And of course, you can always, if you enjoyed this, please like, share. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. We'll have more of this coming up with other great people. And Ashley, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing a little bit about your story. And the wisdom and inspiration that you're providing the world is pretty awesome. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this. This is a lot of fun.
Okay. Well, you have a great day, and we'll talk to you guys soon.